Pearl Jam released their landmark debut album 10 in late August of 1991. Coupled with groups like Nirvana, Soundgarden, and Alice in Chains, they ushered in the so-called grunge era of the early 90s. 10 would go on to be the biggest album of the band's career and one of the most popular records of the decade, selling over 12 million copies stateside. But one of the first songs the band wrote for the album, a track called Yellowledbetter, didn't make the record and instead would be released as a B-side. But strangely enough, years later, it became one of the band's most popular songs, and the reason it got popular might surprise you. In today's video, let's talk about the history of the song. The first thing that's noticeable about the Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan influenced track are the lyrics. What are they, a lot of people ask? Well, the first clue came from the Japanese 3-inch CD single for Daughter. The correct lyrics were supposedly printed in both English and Japanese, but fans quickly became suspicious when the lyrics didn't seem to make sense. Frontman Eddie Vedder would give an online chat to fans in 2000 where he was asked about the story behind the song, to which he responded, "Yellowledbetter was written right around the time of the Gulf War. That's about as far as I can get into it. It's an anti-patriotic song, actually." But fast forward to a Vedder solo performance in 2008, and it was during a Q&A session Vedder shined more light on the song, revealing, "Wait, you mean there's lyrics?" he'd ask. He would go on to say the song was about a friend whose brother served during the first Gulf War. His brother died in the war, and as a result, he received a yellow letter informing him of the news. He didn't need to open the letter because he knew what was in it. The yellow letters are a normal part of contacting family, but the death of a loved one in the military. It was following that news, Vedder and his friend would go for a walk to digest the heartbreaking news. On that walk, the friend, who Vedder described as alternative looking, would go on to say, so he tries to walk this off in this little suburban neighborhood. He's walking it off and his mind is racing and he doesn't know what to do. He feels like he can't take a step without falling into some deep abyss. And so he's walking and he sees a couple on a porch with an American flag, and then he waves to them like "my brother," and the people look at him like, "You scumbag, like who are you?" They don't know the inside, they're just judging him by his cover. So that's what the thought was. The friend he would be referring to was named Tim Ledbetter. It was believed for quite some time the song was initially inspired by blues musician Leadbelly, whose last name is Ledbetter, who was a huge influence on guitarist Mike McCready. There was also another theory that the name Yellowledbetter is from an old tongue twister in which you try to say yellow better, red better as fast as you can. Just a few times repeated and the words become jumbled and you get Yellowledbetter. As for why the song never made it onto 10, frontman Eddie Vedder would explain to Howard Stern that he wanted the song on the record, as did Mike McCready, but he didn't finish the lyrics in time. The song is credited to Eddie Vedder, Mike McCready, and Jeff Ament. The song is also said to have been inspired by the Jimi Hendrix song Little Wing and Stevie Ray Vaughan, as McCready mentions to Stern here.
A lot of what I learned back to Stevie Ray Vaughan, Howard, was to play with my thumb over the top. So that helps me kind of, instead of hit a chord like that, I can do it.
As for the writing of the track, McCready would recall that was written around the time of the first record 10. I think that was the second thing Ed and I wrote together. It came out of a jam in the studio, and Ed really didn't have any lyrics. He came up with some ideas right there on the spot, and that's what we recorded. For some reason, it didn't make it on 10. I was kind of bummed at the time. It's pretty common for Vedder to frequently change the lyrics during live performances. The song would also become a frequent set closer for Pearl Jam. So how did the song get discovered by radio if it was never included on the 10 album? Well, Billboard magazine would publish an interesting piece on May 28, 1994, so about half a year after the group's second album, Versus, came out. The publication would write that radio programmers at both commercial and college radio were so hungry for any new Pearl Jam, they couldn't even wait for the band's subsequent album, Vitalogy, which was due out later in the year. Instead, programmers and DJs were turning to imports and live performances, including playing their recent appearance on Saturday Night Live, where they would play the track Not For You from their upcoming album Vitalogy at the time. Yellowledbetter was released as a B-side of the single Jeremy in the UK, and a live version of the song was also set to be found on the UK single for Daughter. LA radio station K-Rock claimed they were the first station to play the song, and they chalked it up to their interns who supposedly discovered the B-side. K-Rock started playing Yellowledbetter around April of '94, and it soon became the most requested song for the week. Other stations soon followed suit, including KEDG in Vegas, where the song became a top 5 request, with the station's program director telling Billboard, "This is our best responding Pearl Jam song ever. It's accessible to all demographics. We played the heck out of the Versus album and needed something different, something our listeners would not be burned out on." The program director for KEDG also claimed the station was inundated with so many calls about where people could buy Yellowledbetter. They would end up referring their callers to local import shops. Of course, not all the import shops carried the song. One retail shop claimed they couldn't even stock the song on their shelves because it was so popular. They went from selling 10 copies a week to 50, and while 50 may not seem like a lot, the store was quick to point out to Billboard that 50 copies a week for an import is a lot. By the middle of May of 1994, Yellowledbetter was played 203 times among 11 radio stations in 1 week, which was pretty impressive considering it was never serviced or promoted by the band's label Epic Records. At the time, Dissident, from the band's most recent release Versus, which was being promoted by Epic, had 219 plays from 19 modern rock stations. Album rock radio seemed to favor Dissident, with 97 stations playing it, while only 9 played Yellowledbetter. The song would end up peaking at number 26 on the Modern Rock Tracks chart, and number 22 on the Mainstream Rock Tracks chart, which according to Billboard made it the first song in history that's not commercially available in the States to make it onto the charts. The band's manager Kelly Curtis was asked about how he felt and how the band felt about stations digging deep to find more material from the group, to which he responded, "I don't think the band cares one way or another." The song would end up appearing on future Pearl Jam releases and would be licensed by Hollywood. My favorite use of the song was in the movie 50-50, which is about a cancer patient, which is played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and also includes Seth Rogen and Anna Kendrick. The last scene of the movie ends with the song. The song can also be heard in the series finale of Friends. It would represent one of the first times Pearl Jam licensed their music to a television show. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. As always, if you have suggestions for future topics, let me know in the comment section below. Take care.